Hey, Mike and Kevin here with Spectora. Today's topic is inspector marketing. We're going to talk to you about how to drive more traffic to your website and then how to convert those visitors into clients. Our goal today is to give you tools, knowledge, some tips, some guidelines to get you more business as a home inspector. So we're going to cover a lot of topics. The big umbrella topic first is getting more traffic to your website. We're going to talk about SEO, search engine optimization. We'll talk to you more about what that means if you don't know. We're going to talk about paid advertising. We're going to talk about social media marketing. And we're also going to talk about email marketing. After that, we're going to move into conversion, which is basically getting those visitors to your website to become paying customers. And within that umbrella topic, there's going to be talk about website design, the user experience while they're on your website, as well as some technical aspects, some boxes that you need to check to make sure that you're converting as many possible visitors to your website into paying customers. It may feel a little like drinking from a fire hose, and that's okay. I think a lot of what we're doing here is giving you information. We don't want you to get overwhelmed. We don't want you to get analysis paralysis, and you don't have to feel like you have to do it all right away. But we want you to maybe pick up a few things, come back and watch this video again later, pick up a few more things, and gradually implement these so that over time, your digital marketing presence can get better and better. But before we dive into all that, if you don't know us already, we'll tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're qualified to talk about this. So, my name is Mike Wagstaff. I am one of the founders of Spectora, and I am the software engineer and designer for our entire platform. So if you've used Spectora's web application, if you've used our mobile app, that's all of my code and my design work there. Before founding Spectora, I've worked as a software engineer for both small startups all the way up to some of the biggest brands around like 3M, Scotch, 20th Century Fox, AT&T, Verizon. I've also done user interface and user experience design for some of these companies. And I've also done a lot of work as a startup consultant. And so I hope to bring not only the engineering piece, but some of that design mentality of like getting in the head of your user, what they're experiencing, how they're using your website, and how you can make improvements to make sure that you're getting as much business as you possibly can.
Guys, Kevin Wagstaff, one of the founders of Spectora as well. I am also a digital marketing specialist. I also oversee the website services that we offer, and some of you have worked with onboarding, doing product demos, and just generally making sure that our inspectors have a good experience and that their marketing is going well. So my history and background is working as a residential real estate agent at Equity, Colorado for about 6 years. Learned a lot about home inspections and working with home inspectors and just the general real estate process. I also worked at Home Advisor on their dedicated SEO team, and my job there was to help grow organic traffic, much of which we'll be talking about today.
Tell me a little bit about the numbers you got.
We grew traffic there from about 1.5 million monthly visitors to over 6 million in a span of 3 years. And so big growth for the company. We did a great job creating different page types, creating basically what people were searching for, and that's some of what we'll get into.
So when it comes to SEO knowledge, he's one of the best around.
And my background before that was a financial advisor at Charles Schwab. You'll hear a lot of talk today about getting your return on investment with especially paid marketing and even SEO. So a lot of that return on investment talk and keeping an eye on your budget and what you're spending comes from that background as a financial advisor.
So if somehow you stumbled across this video without being a customer of Spectora, I'll tell you a little bit about what we are and what we do. So we are all-in-one home inspection software. And so this means that you can run your entire home inspection business off of our platform. We create modern reports that are focused on client and agent satisfaction. We have a mobile app that lets you do most of your inspections on site. Some of our guys even publish on site. We also have a suite of business tools to let you run the back office. So this includes automated email and text messages that go out both before and after the inspection. And we'll talk a little bit later about how you can leverage that into more business and more hits to your website. We also have integrated payments and online agreements. We have an online scheduling widget that can be embedded directly into your website. And we also do web design for inspectors, as well as SEO and digital marketing services. So basically, your one-stop shop for the tech side of the business.
And for some of you Jumpstart plan members or packages, we help you out with a good piece of that in terms of the automated emails, some of the marketing startup. So we'll be working with you on that if you're part of our Jumpstart plan.
So as you're watching this presentation, and as we're doing it, we're trying to be very mindful of the different places you guys might be coming from. And so some of you might be new inspectors with a year or less in the industry. And a lot of this, maybe you don't have a technical background. So a lot of this might sound very complex. There might be a lot of words that hopefully we define for you, but just, don't get overwhelmed. You're new, starting a new business. There's a lot to learn. Don't feel like you have to learn it all at once. Some of you are veteran inspectors. Maybe you've been doing this a long time. Maybe you have a healthy stream of business and you just want to get more. Maybe you want to expand and add a few more employee inspectors underneath you. We hope that we can give you really good information on how to do that. Maybe your website hasn't been updated in a long time, and so we can talk to you about what to look for when updating your website, improving your online presence. So hopefully even our veteran inspectors can take a lot out of this information. And just generally, before we dive in, think about your online presence. This is your website, how much web traffic you're getting from both paid advertisements as well as organic search results. Think about the conversion rate. Maybe you don't even know what conversion rate means or what it is. We'll dive into that and give you all that knowledge. But kind of get a sense of what do you want to get out of this so that you know which parts to pay attention to. And we'll start diving in from there.
And for a lot of you experienced inspectors, we work with new and experienced inspectors. Many of the experienced ones, we know they don't feel great about their online presence. We know it's something they've neglected in the past and they've done well via agent referrals. So we understand the standpoint you're coming from. There's little things you can do, and that's what we're going to give you today, some of those tactical takeaways to just get started on it, because the worst feeling is feeling like you're doing nothing.
So if you don't already think your online presence is important, here's a little bit of statistics and background for you. The goal, of course, is to be less reliant on agent referrals. I know many of you out there get a lot of your business from agents, sometimes even just a few agents. The average tenure of an agent is 3 years or less. It's a lot of turnover. A lot of new agents get into the business, can't quite make ends meet, and they get out. And so if you're relying on just a few agents to get most of your business, that's pretty shaky ground to stand on, and it probably keeps you up at night. So we want to help you with that. So I'm wondering how many of you get most of your business, 50% or more, from agent referrals. And if you do, you'll probably want to pay a lot of attention to what we have coming up. Some of you might get it from only 5 agents or less. And so if one of your agents goes out of business or leaves the industry, 20% of your business might be gone. So that, again, is another reason to think about your online presence and how you can get a steady stream of business.
And one thing we want to touch on with this, guys, is we hear from a lot of inspectors that get feedback from one of their biggest agents. And if that's a majority of where your business comes from, you panic and you start to think you have to do anything and everything for that agent. And that's not the spot we want you all to operate from. I think anytime an agent wants something this way or that way, part of it is training your agents to fall in line with how you do things. And then part of it is also making sure you're servicing them and giving them what they want. So we want you to have a good balance and never feel beholden to a handful of agents.
Bottom line, you want more direct traffic. You want to get people that search for you online or that click your ad online, come straight to your website and book an inspection. And people are searching for home inspectors. This graph here, you can see along the top in the blue bars, over 120,000 people are searching for home inspectors every month in the United States. In your particular market, that might be hundreds, maybe even thousands if you're in a larger city, are searching directly for home inspectors. So they're maybe not listening to their agent referrals, or maybe they hear an agent tell them an inspector name, but then they go and check out some other options. So, and agents, I think you can speak a little bit to your time as an agent.
Yeah, guys, when I was looking for a new home inspector, I went and searched Google. So keep in mind that it's not just clients that are buying homes looking for you. Agents will often, especially new agents, will just go and search Denver home inspector, Austin home inspector, to find someone, and you want to be there. You want to have a chance to win that business.
They're also researching you. Like I said, when you're an agent, you gave 3 names to any given home buyer. Probably first thing they did was hop on Google, search for them, and saw what their online presence said about them. And so here you can see we search for a particular home inspection company, and what comes up on the right doesn't really give a good sense of trust and legitimacy. Instead of seeing their logo or maybe a friendly inspector's face, the images of some trees in front of his house. Instead of seeing hundreds of reviews, there's only 4 Google reviews and one Facebook review, and they're either 1 or 2 stars. And so that's not very confidence inspiring. And so even though my agent might have recommended this particular inspector, I'm probably not going to use him. And so this is the danger of neglecting your online presence.
And for the states, guys, where you have to give 3 names, where agents have to give 3 names, you're competing against 2 other people essentially in the search results. So if they Google all 3 of you, you have to know what you look like to them, because you could be losing on business that you don't even know you're losing.
So here is another example. I put in a search for a very particular home inspection company. And what came back was not only that home inspection company, but a competitor that has more reviews and is ranking higher organically. And so even though I asked Google for one particular company, they said, hey, I know you're looking for a home inspection company. You might want to consider checking out this other company, which is rated a little bit better and has been doing a little bit more with their online presence. And so you could be losing business and you don't even know it because somebody comes to this kind of result and clicks on your competitor. Bottom line, you could be leaving money on the table. And this comes to not only what we were talking about earlier, but what if they do click your website and your website kind of sucks? And they say, this inspector does not look legitimate. They have maybe an old design, or they don't give me enough information. We'll get into a lot of conversion stuff later on. But the bottom line is, are you getting as much out of your online presence as you want to? Are you leaving money on the table? So first, we're going to start with the big umbrella topic of getting more traffic.
So we'll start with just defining the basics, guys. For those of you that don't know, what is SEO? What does it mean? There's a lot of jargon getting thrown around in the industry. It's search engine optimization. So basically where you rank in Google or other search engines. So when someone searches for any given keyword, it's how do you show up and rank when people are looking at that search results page. So some of the top factors we're going to get into today, content and links being the two of the bigger factors, but content really is just the pages on your website and the blog posts that you do or maybe aren't doing. Links, this just means a backlink from another site pointing to your site. Your website, Mike referenced that a minute ago, we'll get into that. Reviews, Google, Yelp, Facebook, and then citations. That just means where is your name, address, and phone number of your business listed across the internet. So one thing to take away, guys, is that Google's algorithm has evolved to reward good behavior, essentially, and good habits. So for those of you that know SEO from maybe 3, 5, 10 years ago, you don't just do it one time anymore. It's not just spending an hour on your site and all of a sudden you rank higher. So there's no more gaming the system. Google is very smart. They have very smart engineers. So you don't just put keywords on the page and go to the top. So it doesn't happen overnight. That's the big takeaway here.
And I think it's important to think about from Google's perspective. They are invested in providing their users the best experience. They want to give people what they're searching for. And so their algorithm is constantly refining to be more natural, which means not gaming the system. And so there's a lot of misinformation about SEO. There's a lot of people that maybe don't keep up with the industry as much and they're selling old tactics. It's a very fast moving industry. And so companies like ours that do SEO services, we are constantly following all of the latest changes in Google's algorithm and making sure we're delivering the latest and most accurate tasks. So something to keep in mind when you're shopping around.
All right, so we're going to stop here for a second, guys. We've given you why it's important. We're going to dive into some tactical stuff now. We want to make sure you're tracking anything you do, right? Because Mike's question is always, how do we know this works? And so you want to have proper tracking and analytics in place, or else you're destined to fail or not even be able to know if it's working. Google Analytics, it's free. It's something that anyone can set up. Very simple. For WordPress, there's an easy plugin that helps you add it onto your site. It helps you see where your visitors are coming from. So even if you have 10 visitors in your first month, it helps to know if they came from your Facebook page or from organic traffic or the ads that you're running. It gives you far more insights that we can get into in an advanced video and session, but it'll tell you how long someone spent on an article you wrote. I know you find a lot of these metrics very interesting being an engineer.
Oh, looks like we skipped a couple slides.
Google My Business, another free tool you can use from Google. This tracks when people click on your local maps listing. So if you search for a home inspector in any given city, you'll notice there's the Google Maps pack along with those businesses there. This tracks what happens in the Google local space. You can see it gives you how many people visited your site from the maps, how many people viewed your listing. Some very good insights that even if you spent 5 or 10 minutes a week getting to know this, I think it could be very valuable for you guys. Google Search Console, this is a little bit of an advanced analytics package from Google. Again, also free, but gives you more insights. As your company grows, it helps to know what people are searching for to get to you, and then what pages they're landing on, how many impressions your website is getting. And that just means how many times do you show up on the page when someone searches for Home Inspector Atlanta.
I think the big takeaway here, guys, is just you have to track stuff. You have to measure it. Otherwise, you're just throwing money into a black hole and you're not sure what exactly is being improved upon. So when we set up websites, we set them up with Google Analytics by default. Make sure that whoever is doing your website is familiar enough to set up Google Analytics.
Right. And most of you will not even want to get into this world. Just make sure it's being done on some level, because say a year later you wake up and you want to look back at your data. We've had inspectors come to us and want to know that data, and they never set up tracking. So just remember the long game. All right, so getting into content, being that it is one of the most important aspects, what is content? So content is the text, images, and videos on your site or on your blog, or if some of you have a service area page dedicated to a certain city, it's really just all the words and pictures on your page. So we can't tell you enough that Google comes out and says this is one of the most heavily weighted ranking factors. So it's very, very important that you have quality content on your site. Here's some examples of on-page content, as we refer to it, a couple home pages here, page on drywall. It's what you're writing to draw people in and to keep them engaged on your website. So here's some basic guidelines. You want to sprinkle in the keywords. So for our industry, the main keyword is home inspection or home inspector. You want to use these in a natural way. So you don't want to just put these all over the page. If it feels unnatural, that should be your internal alarm to say, okay, I need to think about how I would say this to someone. You want to put them in the key places on your site, title tags, meta descriptions, and your headers. And then you don't want to keyword stuff. We can't tell you enough to write for humans, because Google's algorithm is getting better and better at being able to tell when you're trying to game them. So ranking outside your service area, it's a common question we get with SEO plans is, how do I rank in a city that's 50 miles away from me? So here's an example of an Atlanta real estate or an Atlanta service area page where we get into some real estate statistics, top schools. We do a description of the town, Google Maps. So there's a couple things you can do to these pages to make it worthwhile. So we don't want you just making these by duplicating content. They need to be helpful if you or I or anyone else landed on this page. So, and you want to link to them from your main navigation, and you want to just focus on a couple because you want them to be good, and you're going to have to do research to make these. And then test it. Sometimes we've made location pages and the home page just ends up ranking for that city anyway. So test it out. If you guys need more help with this, let us know. We're happy to talk more about it. Here's more ideas. We'll give you a few now. Frequently asked questions, customer reviews, city resources. There's always Chamber of Commerce pages or city pages that can help you with what content you put on your city page. Recent inspections, local events and partnerships, and then real estate updates is an easy one. If you want to have real estate stats on your city page, that's a very relevant thing, and it's good information for someone that stumbles across it. But the bottom line is, guys, don't use boilerplate content for these city pages. Or duplicate content from other pages. Don't do this. An example we came across where it's literally stamping out the same page for another city. This can get you penalized, so just stay away from that. All right, blogging. So the most common question we get is, what do I write about? So ask Google. They have a wealth of information. If you just type in any word into Google, you'll probably notice you get the autocomplete or the auto suggest results. This alone gives you lots of good information on what people are searching for. So they base this off what people are searching for. Type in home inspection, type in home maintenance, type in radon, and just see what you get back. People also ask, this is about halfway down the page if you search for certain topics. This will give you great topics to write about because Google takes this from what people are actually searching for next after they search for that base search topic. And then related searches, this is at the very bottom of the page. This just gives you what other people are searching for, what people search for after that certain topic, and click on those links and see what those search results look like. A lot of times when I did research for Home Advisor, I would click on these links and just keep following the trail of related searches to find more topics to write about. And you guys got to think outside of home inspections. Remember, even if you're a new inspector, there's a good chance you know more about home construction, handyman, home maintenance, HVAC than the average homeowner, right? I think you can speak to that even when you had a home inspection done.
I didn't know how to change a furnace filter.
Yeah, so there's lots of topics you guys can write, even 3 paragraphs about, that is helpful to someone out there. And just remember that your clients and your agents don't have the knowledge you have and the background you have. So you have to think outside of just home inspections because it's important for Google and for your clients. This is a reminder to just remember you're trying to rank locally. So search results look different in every city. And if you write about things that are local to your city and your area, there's a better chance you'll rank higher over time and be helpful to your clients. So just think again about local events and resources, partnerships, and just make these local pages helpful to someone that maybe is either looking for real estate information or home maintenance tips. Just make it local and make it helpful.
A couple examples. So we're here located in Denver. Just recently, I searched for lawn maintenance care in the spring in Denver. That could be something that maybe some of you know something about. Evaporative coolers are popular here. And so I am searching for how to get it ready and going for the season. So just think about those things that are maybe unique to your market and topics that you can write about that people might stumble across on those very kind of local specific searches.
Answer the Public is a cool site that pulls all of Google's search results or the autocomplete answers and will give them to you if you just go and type in any given word or topic. So check out the site, type in home inspection and click get questions. It'll show you all of the things Google recommends. And it's a great mine for information and what to write about. One central theme to keep in mind is that when you're writing anything for your website or anything at all, remember that if someone spends a long time reading your article, that's a signal to Google that it's probably helpful, and they up-rank content over time because they want people to find helpful content.
I find that such a fascinating thing. If you have a search result page and you click on something, go to it, and then immediately click back, Google sees that and says, wow, they only spent 3 seconds there. That clearly wasn't what they're looking for. We're not going to rank that quite as high. And when that happens tens, hundreds, thousands of times, they fall down in the rankings so that they're no longer being shown. And so it's important to make sure that what you put out there is quality and that you're not just putting out quick and dirty, easy stuff, because that just won't get you ranked.
Yeah, don't write anything at all if it feels very basic and like you're doing it for Google. Do it to be helpful because it is almost creepy in a way what Google knows. Guest posting is another area of content we want to jump into real quick, especially if you have agents that are loyal to you and they have a website and they even have a blog, even better. The agents you get close to, ask them to guest post on their site. Local blogs, I've seen some good examples. I think we have a slide for it where you can post on local blogs or news sites. And then Active Rain is another good place where you can write on another site and possibly link back to yours. How do you ask? We get that question a lot. How do I ask an agent if I can write on their website? Here's a little template for you. It's basically being genuine. There's no secret here. It's saying, hey, I enjoyed your last article on this or that, or hey, how is business going? I have an article that I think you might find interesting or your users might find interesting. We'll share a bunch of other templates for that.
Something to keep in mind is agents are busy, but they love looking good by having good content they can send out in newsletters to their clients, their former clients. And so you can leverage that. Say, hey, here's a great home maintenance tips for the spring article. Maybe your users would be interested. You get links, you get clicks. It's a win-win.
And we get hundreds of emails a day and week. And so think about when you get a genuine email that's handwritten and someone's actually looked at your website and taken the time. Think about how you respond to that, because I know we respond much more when there's time put into it. So that's how you have to think.
So kind of the summaries here. Things to do: have keywords in there, make sure that they're location specific, and word home inspections there, but don't stuff it in, of course. Start a blog. If you haven't started blogging, it's easy to start. I know all of our websites are already equipped to have a blog. It's going to be worth the time. And especially if you're a new inspector, you probably have a little bit more time than money. As you get busier, you can pay companies like Spectora to write content for you. But initially, try and see what knowledge you have that you can write about. Guest posting is a huge thing. Ask agents that you work with if you can write something for their website or their newsletter. And the big don'ts, like we keep saying, don't keyword stuff. You'll talk to people that are selling you SEO services and they say, we just need to put these keywords on your homepage 100 times. Not only is that not work anymore, and that's old tactics, but you can be actively penalized for it. Don't duplicate content. So if you're having the exact same text on 2 different pages with just some changes on the top, you're going to get penalized, and that's not what you want to do.
Oh, and don't copy the articles directly from Internauchiated. We hear that all the time. We say, hey, can I just copy and paste this article? You can link to it, but don't just copy and paste it. That's a big way to get penalized.
Don't write thin content. So if you're not going to write in-depth, just wait until you have the time to write an in-depth article. And bottom line, don't try and game the system. If it feels like you're trying to game the system and figure out Google's algorithm, bad news for you. They're going to outsmart you. And so that's content. That's what we have for you. And now we're going to move on to links.
So links, again, one of the most important factors in Google's algorithm. Here's a quick page where it's linking to some home inspector sites from an agent site. And they do this. They have preferred partner pages. They will link to you. A lot of times you just have to ask in the right way. One of the top factors here, links and content. So we're going to hammer this home for you guys. It's the best way Google knows how to determine value. So we want to start with the easy links, the directories. There's a couple major ones in our industry that you can go, and I believe some of them you just email and they add you to the directory. Many of you are on the home inspection forums out there. There's a couple major ones. Make sure you have a link to your website in your signature. So then on every page you're posting an answer on, that's a link back to your site. And that's an easy way to do that. It also engages you in the community. I think there's some that are very helpful out there. Your loyal agents, you saw the screenshot there. A lot of them will link to you if you're one of their guys or if you're one of their preferred partners. And then some of the local associations and organizations, chambers of commerce, some of these might require you to pay. And so you just have to do the research, and it's something we can help research as well to see if any given organization is worth paying to get that link. It's only okay in that sense because it is a membership and you're getting other things. It's not just purely paying for a link. That's worth noting. How do you know where to get links from? I get that question a lot. And so there's tools out there. We use Ahrefs. The other two are also link tracking software where you can see what your top competitors have for links. You can see where they have links from. And this just usually gives us good ideas of the links that have helped them get to where they are. And some of these we can go out and get for your site. Content marketing for links. This is a big buzzword in SEO now, is writing great content that's so good that people link to it. And we're talking agents or clients. You want to make it something that you would share. So here's an example for the search home inspection checklist. This is the article that ranks first. It has 1,300 backlinks to it. And this article hasn't even been out that long. I know the results for certain searches, and it's a fairly new article, but there's about 1,000 words in it. So it's very thorough and in-depth. They have very clear headings. They're using the keywords in a natural way. and they make it very readable by breaking it up with bullet points. It's just a really good article, and Google has rewarded that. And clearly the links have come with it. And so that's great for this particular website. Guest posting, we mentioned it earlier. Here's a couple examples. Ruben Saltzman is a huge inspection company in Minnesota. They do a lot of guest posting on different news websites, different realtor websites. So this is very valuable because you typically get a link back to your site when you do this, and you also just help people with a good article. So you have to promote content. This is one area that's typically left in the dust when people write really good content and articles. They think, hey, I spent hours or days on this. People should just link to it. You have to promote good content to get links, and that's email marketing, social media. Active Rain can be a way to get it in front of a lot of agents, local blogs, and then paid advertising. You only want to do this if you've really put in good work into writing your content, and it's worth putting a few dollars towards getting it in front of the people that will link to it.
All right, so to sum up with links, start off with getting easy links. Look at directories, forums, associations in your area, and grab those. That can take only a few minutes of your time and will really help your SEO. Ask your agents. If you're already working with some agents, it takes just a quick email or phone call to say, hey, are you willing to put a link on your site? Spy on the competition. Ahrefs is one of the tools that we recommended to get an idea of what the good results are in your market, what they're doing, and start to do some of the same. And write kick-ass content. Bottom line, put effort into what you're putting out there into the world, and it will be rewarded. Don't pay for links. This can get you banned. Don't get unnatural links. Maybe you have a friend that has a website in an unrelated industry like a chiropractor. Him putting your website link on his site does not really help you. Expect links. You have to earn links to your site. Write and forget to promote. So put in the work, get the content in front of your audience.
And remember, guys, paying for links, there's a lot of scam type sites that will email you and say, hey, get 15 links for this amount of money. That's the paying for links we're talking about. A Chamber of Commerce membership that happens to link to your site is okay.
All right, so now I'm going to dive a little bit into your website and how that can help your SEO. But first, let's just take a look at, these are some modern looking websites that we've built recently. And we're going to dive into what makes them good, what makes them helpful in terms of the SEO sense. So page load speed is a huge factor. And we're going to get into how page load affects humans in the conversion process. But it's very important to know that Google's rankings take into account how long it takes for a page to load up. So from the time somebody types in your URL and hits enter until they're seeing something on the page is very important. And so a lot of factors play into this. Compressing your images is a big one. And so make sure that you're working with somebody that knows what they're doing in terms of page load speed. Mobile friendliness is another huge thing. More than half of all website traffic now is on mobile devices. This is a huge shift that's happened just in the last few years. Google has updated their algorithm to reflect that. And so if your site looks like the one on the left where you have to maybe pinch and zoom in, the buttons are hard to tap because they're too small, that's going to penalize you. Whereas if you have a modern site, you'll hear the buzzword responsive. If you're talking to a web developer, you should ask them, is the website going to be responsive? That just means it looks good on a phone, it looks good on a tablet, it's going to look good on a desktop. Responsive sites have text that's zoomed in, so like the one on the right, you can read it without having to pinch and zoom. It has tappable buttons that are easy to find and press, and these are the things that Google's rewarding right now. And then the design aspects, we're going to dive into at least the human side, but we've already touched on, if somebody comes to your site and it just doesn't convey that you're a legitimate home inspector, and it looks like the one on the left, they're probably going to hit back right away. And we talk about how that's going to impact your SEO because Google thinks, yep, that's not a site where people are finding what they're looking for. Whereas when you pop into a site, it looks like what you're after. It gives you an easy way to do things on it that you want to do, like book an inspection. They're going to stay on that site longer, and that impacts your SEO. So your to-dos for your website, check your page speed. gtmetrics.com is a site that you can pop into, type in your website URL, and it's going to give you grades on all the different aspects. It's going to tell you, hey, maybe you should compress these images. Maybe you should look into maybe some of the more technical stuff that you'll need to work with your web developer on, but at least you'll know what it is that you're after and what you're trying to achieve. After you make those changes, you can go back into GT metrics, pop your website in again, and it will tell you, yes, these are now better. Another thing to do, look at your site on a phone. It's amazing how many people never do this. If your website on a phone looks terrible, then you're losing business and you're losing SEO ranking potential. Really evaluate your site design. I'm going to get a lot more into design later in the conversion segment. And update to modern site. If you haven't updated your website in a number of years, if you know your website just isn't great, it's really good return on investment. You spend a few $100s on a site, you're going to get a website that's going to get you tons more inspections that will pay itself off probably in the first month.
And you'll feel much more confident emailing agents and dropping your link and having it in your signature. It's just, you can use it as a marketing tool. So just remember it. It's not just for the looks, it's for rankings, marketing, everything.
Yeah, just think about your website. That's often the first exposure to you and your brand for most people. If they just come across your card, or if you send them an email and they say, yeah, I'm going to go to that website, that's your face to the world. So make sure you invest in that. Don't have a slow site. Don't have a bad mobile experience. And don't lose your visitors by having them click back right away. We can't reiterate how important your website is. All right, so next, let's talk about reviews.
So reviews, we all know they're very important here. We look at a business that has good reviews, that puts the effort into asking for them. And you see this is what people look at. It's what the world relies on nowadays, is reviews. Think about when you shop for something, you're looking for reviews. And so it's no different with home inspections. So 93% of consumers say they have an impact on their purchasing decision. No surprise here. If you do happen to get a bad review, this particular study says 3.3 is the minimum someone needs to start engaging with the business. Hopefully many of you are far above that. One thing, make sure you're asking for reviews. It sounds simple, but it's the thing we see inspectors not doing. They either don't send follow-up emails. This is a screenshot of Spectora's automated follow-up email. You can add links in there to say, leave me a review on Google or Facebook or Yelp. You just have to ask and make it easy for the customer. This link should link directly to the page where it shows the overview to leave a review. You don't just want to link to yelp.com. They're not going to leave you a review. Ask at least twice. So we have a lot of inspectors will start off just asking once, and people are busy. People are on their phones. People are with their families. You have to ask multiple times. You have to get over the apprehension of bugging them, because if people are busy, they just don't see the first one and they'll never leave you a review. If they already did it, they'll just ignore it. Right.
And I know when I was in the middle of my home buying process, there's a lot going on. So if I got asked for a review the day after, I probably disregarded that because I was trying to, we were trying to figure out how to make that transaction close or not. Whereas maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, things might have settled down and that would be a great time to ask for a review. So this screenshot just shows in Spectora, you can set the time intervals that you want follow-ups to go out. And we really recommend having the links to reviews in each one of those.
And you can rotate where you ask for reviews, guys. So we have some inspectors that will rotate Yelp, Facebook, Google, Home Advisor, other places that you can get multiple reviews from the same person. And so that's what this can do. It can really get you a lot of reviews in a quick amount of time. And I think we have a screenshot for that here in a minute. This is how it looks on the consumer end. When they get this, it looks very professional. You set these things up typically once, maybe you update them over time. It just makes you look really on the ball and professional when Spectora is actually sending them out for you. Here's the case study we were talking about. Chris down in Atlanta started, this time last year, he had 6 Google reviews. I don't think he was using anything automated to ask after the inspection. We worked with him on the automation. He did 3 follow-up emails asking for a review in each. And we fast forward to a year. I think he's near 100 at this point as we're filming this. And his Google ranking has shown he's actually leapfrog Home Advisor to rank second, sometimes first in his market. And his reviews are just blowing the competition away. And that's just from asking.
And how long did that take to set up that automated email campaign? Maybe a few minutes?
A few minutes. And then we tweaked it once or twice, but that's it. And It's helped his rankings out tremendously, his click-through rate. People are obviously choosing him because of this. And he says he doesn't even mention it on site. So it's purely just sending the email, and he's gotten so many reviews. It's transformed his business.
Leverage the automation that software like Spectora can provide you.
So you want to diversify. I get this question a lot. Where do I get reviews from? Get it in multiple places, but prioritize Google and Yelp, and get a few at these other places. Interesting stat, Mike was even blown away when I showed him this, is that people are willing to pay more if they know they're going to have a good experience, and reviews do that. So the more good reviews and the more they share, it assures the next person they'll have a better experience, and you might be able to be the premium inspector. And so that's just a cool stat, I think.
Yeah, I think every inspector wants to move up market, start charging more and more for an inspection, so you have either more money or you just have to do less inspections. Reviews are such a key part of that.
Some bonus tips. I hear apprehension. What if someone wasn't happy and they leave me a bad review? One thing you can do in your automation is phrase it as, hey, if there's something you thought we could have done better, click here and let us know. And it links to a contact form on your website. So it just at least gives them a chance to tell you directly, rather than going straight to reviews and leaving you something bad that could damage your business. And then using text. We don't see enough inspectors adding these links in their text messages, or telling people where to go via text to leave them a review, because as we know, more than 50% are looking at that email through their phone. And then mention it on site. I think something that we said Chris didn't particularly do, but I think you up the chance to leave you a review if you mention it to them in a genuine way, to say, hey, my business is built on reviews. I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a review. I'll send you a link.
So to sum up, ask for reviews, ask often, and automate. Make sure that this process is automatic. If you have to remember to send people emails after an inspection, it's just not going to happen. And don't make them work. Don't give them more hoops. Think about how many clicks they have to do to leave you that review. Minimize that number. Don't be shy. People are busy. You just are going to have to be okay with asking multiple times. Don't ignore your bad reviews. It looks so bad when there's a bad review and you say nothing. In all of the review platforms, you're able to respond. And often it goes a long way to say, hey, thank you for letting us know about this. You can give them your perspective, or the situation was like this. Here's what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. I, for one, know that when I'm reading a bad review and then they respond very professionally and say what they're going to do to make it better, it makes me feel better about it.
And if you can respond to you respond to the first couple good ones too, as a bonus. I see some inspectors, they'll just have a very energetic, genuine response to those first couple good reviews. It just makes you look a little bit better, and that you're very responsive. It looks good either way. So you can't go wrong with responding to those reviews.
Yeah. And don't forget the other platforms. You're going to want to look at Google primarily, but there's a lot of places to get reviews, and it's nice to have some on each. All right.
Citations. So an often a changing topic. So citations are important. The consistency is the biggest thing you want, meaning how you refer to your business, the phone number you use. You want that consistent in all the places where you create accounts. So just remember, make it consistent. Don't change. If you change your business name, make sure you're changing it in a lot of different places where your business is listed.
And I think this even gets down to details, right? Like INC period versus incorporated versus leaving it off.
You want it to be consistent. Opinions vary on how much that impacts, but especially if you're new, it matters more, because Google knows nothing about your history. If you've been in the business a long time, Google probably has a good picture of what your business is and where it's located. But the biggest thing I see is referencing addresses, business names differently. So make sure it's consistent. But we'll caveat this with saying citations are important to a degree. So many people now are selling citation building services that put your business in 1,000 places across the internet, mostly on sites that people and humans don't navigate to. So keep in mind that it's important, but don't spend too much time on this, because it doesn't offer a ton of return on the investment after those first 10, 20, 30 websites that you're listed on. You just want to cover your basics. So you want to fill out the most important citation, which is Google My Business. Fill out that profile completely and consistently, and then create accounts at other large directories. So there's the big well-known ones like Yellow Pages, Super Pages, and then industry sites like Home Advisor. Fill those accounts out, make it consistent. And then you don't need info on 1,000 sites, guys. I think this gets sold and abused a lot in the SEO industry. So if you get approached by it, ask questions, find out what sites they're putting your business information on. Most of the time you can do it yourself, and it will give you a few tools for that. Moz Local, I use this every day. You can put yourself or your competition in there, and it'll tell you your citation coverage, and it'll actually link you directly to these sites so you can go create those accounts. So getting that score up into the 70s or 80s should be your goal. If you hide your address in Google, it won't show you that you have it in Moz, but that's okay. You know you have it filled out. But Bright Local and WhiteSpark or other tools, they'll do it for you. You can pay a few dollars and they'll go create those accounts for you and send you the logins.
So be consistent. There's a huge takeaway here. Cover the basics. Get Google My Business. If you do nothing else, make sure Google My Business is set up, because that's what's impacting that little box on the top right when people search for you. And so that's where you can put in your logo and your website, and then move on to some of the other top ones and use tools to measure this. But don't spend too much time on it. Like we said, the return on investment is not as high here. That's why we're talking about it last, after content and links in your website and reviews. But just, it's something to keep in mind. Don't use fake addresses. We hear people saying, oh, I'm gonna like get a PO box in every town around me. That confuses Google. It makes it look like you're not a legitimate business. So don't do that.
Google filters these out now. So they've come out publicly and said they are being more aggressive with finding these and filtering them out of the search results. So you can do it, but you just won't rank in those cities, and you could be penalized in a big way.
All right, so that was the big topic of SEO and organic search. And now we're going to pop into a few other topics in terms of getting more traffic. And now we're going to get into paid advertising.
So pay per click ads. This is for you inspectors. And to paint the picture for you here, Google's economic impact report says businesses make an average of $2 in revenue for every one they spend. Pretty good return. It varies per industry. But to define where these ads show up, when you do any given search, you'll see 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 ads at the top above the local search results. So if you want quick business, that's where you'll show up when you do ads. And just so everyone's clear, when someone clicks on that ad, that's why the pay per click is called what it's called, is you pay a few dollars every time someone clicks on that ad. Some of the best practices, know your numbers. We'll get into that in a second. Don't target too many keywords. If you're targeting more than 10 or 15 keywords, it might be too many. And then use exact match. This is a little higher level, but just make sure you're putting quotes around the keywords that you put in there, so then your ad's only showing when someone searches for Home Inspector Pittsburgh exactly. So the knowing your numbers part, we're big on this as a company of inspectors, knowing their profit per inspection, because that sets the framework for every investment you make into your business. And so calculating that, it's a pretty simple calculation, right? It's adding up your revenue, subtracting out your expenses, and dividing by the number of inspections you did. If you're new, you can estimate this, take a certain amount off of your average inspection price. It's going to be somewhere in there. How would you think for a new inspector they would estimate that?
It varies by market.
Yeah.
I think you guys know what your setup expenses are in terms of like the trainings, software. And so just kind of get a ballpark range in there and then decide, how much are you willing to spend to make that? And how many times would you do that?
So here we have a little illustration showing, hey, if you have a budget of $60 and then the clicks cost $6 per click. So that we took that directly from Google AdWords. They have tons of historical data. It's going to be anywhere between $3 and $9 per click that you get. So if you're getting 10 clicks to your site for that $60, what are you doing to convert at least one of those people? Ideally, you want to convert them all, but you have to get in the mindset of understanding how many visitors those dollars will get you, and then find out what you're doing wrong or what you need to do right to turn them into booking an inspection. So knowing those numbers are very important. So the ad copy, so what actually shows up in the ad, is in your control and something you would designate when you're in creating these ads. So make sure to use numbers in there. This is actually an example from one of our most successful AdWords home inspectors out there. Use numbers. He has the opening hours. He has his location and phone number. And then also use emotional words like trust, qualified, things that really evoke emotion, because that's what these people are feeling, and you want them to understand that, hey, this is a very big purchase. Local ads is something, this is more of just a kind of a public service announcement almost to let you guys know that this might be coming to the home inspection industry. Google has been testing these local ads, which are different from the 2 ads you see below this blue box. Local ads are a different area where you can pay to show up there, and it says Google guarantee. They do a background check, I believe, on you. They're testing it in plumbing and handyman spaces, but it could be coming to home inspection, so be aware of it. Social advertising. So we'll talk a little bit about social media, but we're talking purely how to pay to get visibility on Facebook here. Here's an example of 2 ads that we've created and ran for certain home inspectors. This is to pay to get visibility in Facebook. You show up in people's news feeds, you show up on their mobile phones when they're just clicking through, a couple other places that Facebook has. So this is paying for visibility on Facebook. It's still fairly cheap. I think Facebook is still in the middle or early phases of completely trying to roll this out and get everyone to use it. So your cost per clicks could be as low as $1. I've seen some as low as 20 cents, depending on who you're targeting. So it is a fairly cheap way to get in front of agents and buyers. If you're going to use this to get in front of agents or to find new agents, you'll see in the screenshot here, you can target a geographic area, X amount of miles, certain zip codes, certain cities, their age, gender, work history, what their job title is, what their interests are, an infinite amount of things you can target for. Obviously, you guys will want people in their job title, realtor, real estate agent, broker. So you can target them there, but what do you send them? So you want to make sure anything you're sending in that Facebook ad, make sure it's helpful or relevant, something local. You want to not do the same generic sell. You got to have something to offer. Because think about when we don't use Facebook that much, but when you're on social media, you're usually not there to just get sold. And I don't think Facebook has an interest in people just seeing ads that sell them on things. So make sure you're doing something unique that's helpful. And then if you're using it for clients for the lead generation side, think about who your ideal customer is, what they make, where they live, and then what are you selling them? Is it re-inspections? Is it new buyer inspections? So think of your goal before you go in and create an ad. So for re-inspections or upsells, think about how many years someone's owned a home. You can target in Facebook based on that. If they've liked certain DIY or home maintenance pages, you can target people that have only liked Bob Vila's page or something like that. A certain area, and then the income we talked about, and life events as well. If you're targeting soon-to-be home buyers, I think it's a good idea to target people that have been using Zillow and Trulia a lot lately. That typically means they're shopping for a home, or if they've recently moved, average income, if they just got married. That's another big life event people filter on, and then their interests with the home maintenance space as well. So lead generation sites, always a very emotional topic. Let's talk about what that means. So Home Advisor, Yelp, Porch, Angie's List, Thumbtack, Better Business Bureau even sells leads. So this is paying to be on those sites. So it's worth noting that Home Advisor and Yelp will typically rank highest in most markets. So you want to be where the people are clicking. So test this out, guys. We laugh all the time that a lot of inspectors will go and ask another group of inspectors what to do, and they'll tell them what works for their market. They'll say, don't use it, it sucks. Whereas in some markets, it works really well, right? Wouldn't you say that's
We've seen entire businesses built off of Home Advisor, and it's a great way to also to meet agents if you're a new inspector.
So focus on the return on investment from these sites, guys. Run the numbers and look at the numbers, not necessarily just believing someone else's opinion on what their experience was like, because it does differ from market to market because the search results are different in every market. So keep that in mind, that your city, Home Advisor might rank first. In their city, they may not. So that it's all about that. And keep in mind, Home Advisor also pays to show up high. They run ads to get leads and get people using them. So there's an advantage there. So keep in mind, and you get links from these sites as well. So that's a side benefit. It's another good citation.
So make sure you know your profit per inspection. Otherwise, you don't know how much it's worth to you to get to spend on ads. Limit the keywords, write creative ads. We keep saying differentiate, differentiate. And that might be hard, but I think all of you have very different backgrounds and very different skill sets and experiences. So figure out what it is that makes you different. Test, 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 test Facebook targeting, test these lead generation sites. Every market is different. And so if you're asking on these national or worldwide forums what works, and you get, a few loud people that say these work or these don't, and you believe them, you might be losing out on something that could really build your business. Don't wing it if you don't know your profit margins, if you have no idea of the numbers and you're just throwing money out there, you're wasting money. Don't use too many keywords. This kind of goes back to that testing, like test a few keywords at first and see how they do. Don't try and just throw everything out there and see what happens, because then you might end up getting a lot of people clicking on ads where it's not even relevant and you're losing money. Don't use Facebook to sell. Make it about giving value to people. That's the new selling. And go where the clicks are. Look at your search results, see what is worth testing. All right, so that was paid ads. Now let's jump into social media a little bit. I know that people think social media is all the rage.
Yeah,
what's your opinion?
Exactly. Mike just mentioned that you don't want to use it to sell. We think it has a place in your marketing spend and in your marketing time spent, but it's not. It's some view it as this holy grail of if you use it right, you'll get a ton of business from it. Traditionally, historically, it's not a huge sales channel. That's meant for building awareness. So here's a graphic showing you the most used sites. I think that's no surprise to most, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Facebook has come out and said it's going to be a reality where you can't even reach your own Facebook audience. So everyone that say you have a home inspection business and you have hundreds of people that have liked your page, there's a good chance if you put out a post, they won't even see it. And that's
which is really hard to swallow, because you've spent all this time building up your Facebook audience. But again, Facebook is a business. Their incentive is to have you pay for advertising dollars. And so, that's the way it works, unfortunately.
So something to remember for those of you that either pay for a service to just post ads for you, or just do posts for you, it's all about who's seeing them, and it shows you the visibility when you look at the bottom of each post. This graphic is just showing you guys that social media is for awareness. I think this was a poll of top social media managers, and they use it to build awareness of the brand, not necessarily sell or do customer service. So you're building awareness for your company, not asking people to book a home inspection.
Test. We say it over and over. Test out who's clicking, who's reading your articles, who's reading what you're sharing. Test and track. We can't emphasize this enough.
And this ties back to the Google Analytics. So if you run a social campaign, or if someone's telling you they're killing it on social and you need to do this, try it and then look at your analytics to say, hey, are people clicking through to my site from this really great article I posted on Facebook? That'll help guide you.
So have a presence. We're not saying don't use the social platforms, because that is kind of a necessary thing that we have to do in this day and age. But use it to share interesting content, hopefully helpful or educational or even funny, and just use it to engage. The idea is engagement, and the business will come from that.
And the biggest thing, the blunder I see there, I have to point out, is I see a lot of inspectors using, say, Twitter, for example, and they have some automated service that sends out a couple tweets a day, but they never go in and follow anybody, or they never like anyone else's or share anyone else's content, or even follow other accounts. So no one's really even seeing it. It's just happening and no one really cares. So you can't fake it. Think of it as real life. You can't just walk up and have someone love you and want to work with you. You have to earn it, even on social.
And don't be over salesy. I think we all know what we do when somebody's just always selling something online. And don't spend too much time on it. Social media should not be your primary method of getting business.
Takeaways here, guys. There's going to be minimal reach on your Facebook posts in particular. So think about if you're going to either pay for that visibility or use it purely to just build awareness. And if you're going to post, make sure it's engaging and interesting, because Facebook has their own algorithm that tracks engagement with posts. So if you post something and you get a bunch of likes, a bunch of shares, Facebook will take that into account for each additional post in the future. So you are actively getting penalized in a way if you're just posting these very boring, dry, salesy posts on there. So think about paying for targeted ads to build awareness, because that payback comes down the road. A little harder to track, but.
All right, so our last subtopic within getting more traffic is email marketing.
So we'll dive into email, guys. I like email. I think it's a very effective way to reach people one-to-one. This Forrester research, global research firm, says people are twice as likely to sign up for your email list as they are to interact with you on Facebook, and I believe it. We all still, for the most part, a lot of people live and die with email. The big goal for email is to just stay top of mind. I can't tell you how many times when I was an agent, I would get a piece of email marketing from a home inspector, and oh yeah, that guy was a good inspector. I think I'll get him on the next one. So your goal is to just stay top of mind with helpful information. If you need ideas of what to send, the biggest stumbling block is I don't know what to email. I don't know what to send them. And that's okay, especially a lot of you new inspectors. You're not going to have your own articles and content quite yet to start an email list. But once you get those first couple agents in the fold, you should still be sending them something that's helpful. So BuzzSumo here is a tool you can use to just help find what's the most socially shared articles out there. So it shows you how many times things have been shared. It gives you an idea of what's interesting out there. So you can type in real estate and have a bunch of articles there. So getting started, MailChimp, we use MailChimp. We love it. There's a free forever plan up to 2,000 subscribers. We think that's a great place to just get started. If you like constant contact, it's very similar, fairly affordable. So you can export your agent list from Spectora and just dump it into MailChimp and get started with a campaign. We want you to find or write yourself interesting content if you can, and then create a calendar to send these, because consistency is very important with email marketing.
So create a MailChimp account, super easy. It's free. It's a great way to get started. Send interesting content and be consistent. Don't be too salesy. Again, just like all the other things, it's just not the best approach. And make sure you don't email without permission. It's kind of a gray area, but if people are clicking spam on the emails that they're getting from you, that's going to hurt your future deliverability.
And it speaks to even more if you're going to acquire an email list, or if you found a list of agents somehow that you haven't worked with and they don't know you. Again, that's why it's a gray area. The email should be very engaging and helpful, or don't email them at all until you have worked with them or they've opted into your email newsletter. Agent presentation. So this is not traditional online marketing, but it's still a big part of our industry, and a lot of you new inspectors especially may have to be getting in some offices and doing some presentations to drum up some early business. Don't just go and hand out business cards. We hear a lot from inspectors. We'll ask them what they're doing. They said, oh, I just went and dropped off some business cards at this office. We know where those can end up. Differentiation. So our vantage point, we hear from hundreds of inspectors of what they do on agent presentations, and 90 to 95% of them do the same thing. So it's all about differentiation. You'll notice this theme. We're not saying you have to bring donuts or bring fruit. We're just saying think differently and outside the box as to how you're going to stand out. Donuts is kind of the typical thing to bring, but I like something more like fruit. So here's some examples. The guy in the middle here, he made Yeti mugs. So he handed these out to some of his top agents, and he said he's gotten other agents because they've seen them drinking that in the office. That's differentiating. That's something they use every day. So his brand visibility there is outstanding. And the one on the left here wrote an article for real estate agents. We actually wrote it for him because he's one of our SEO guys, but that's ways to stand out and provide value, not just the typical things. Your report could be a huge differentiator. We talk about that a ton, right? Of how are you standing out with the report?
We've seen so many inspectors get agents to use them exclusively because they showed them our modern report format, how it's easier to use, how it has agent tools. It feels like a website instead of a PDF, which they're hard to understand, and it just doesn't appeal to the modern home buyer who's getting younger and younger and expects to use the web for most things. So if you are, especially if you're one of the early people in your market to use Spectora and modern reports, web-based reports, that could be a huge selling point. And we've seen brand new inspectors come out the gates and make 6 figures in their first year just because they're using technology better than everybody else in their market.
And we have a few videos and articles that we'll link to that can help you out with these presentations to kind of give you some rich media and something to engage the agents with. It's really worked well for a lot of inspectors. So you want to provide value, guys. Providing or teaching CE courses is something a few inspectors we've heard of that they've done, and it's worked really well. So they've gotten certified to teach a class that gives agents CE credits. Huge, obviously, in the way of visibility. Each office may have a new agent training. Keep in mind that some offices are going fully digital now, and so you may have to get creative and use video more and more, especially you new agents as we're going into this age of purely video, because not all brokers have agents in the offices. And then you want to leave them with a resource. If you can make one thing on your site, whether it's a checklist or an article, you can leave them with a link that they can use later or that you can email them to follow up. And you want to provide value. Whatever it is, make sure you're providing value for them and that you're making their life easier. You want to make it all about the agents when you're doing these. One really cool way to leverage agent visits to get people to search for your brand. It's great for SEO, and a branded search, just so you know, is someone typing in your brand name specifically, your company name. And so you can do this when you instruct agents at these presentations to let them know, just search for my company name. Of course, you want to go and search your company name first to make sure that your search result page looks good and that you have multiple profiles, maybe a couple reviews by that time, but make sure you're asking them, hey, search for my name, because this is great for your SEO if they are searching for you specifically. Great example of a search results page. We want you to own what's on there, because if you don't have these accounts and pages, Google will just fill this in with what they think is relevant. Sometimes it's a competitor like we saw earlier. So make sure you have your reviews, make sure you have other pages on your site that you've put a little bit of effort into. And we preach this when we make websites a lot, of making these other pages very rich. You'll see here a home advisor, Yelp, Angie's List profile. This just makes you look amazing when agents search for you after you leave their office. A bonus idea, something we've implemented with a few of our SEO plans, is making a simple landing page for big offices. And it speaks volumes to me if you go into an office and say, hey, here is your custom page where you can book an inspection. And you can also show them how to add it to their phone as an app. It's very easy to do. I know some of your agents may be used to doing this if you're an experienced inspector, but it makes it easy for them to schedule with you, because at the end of the day, it's all about value to them and making it easy.
So come prepared with your unique value propositions. Think really hard about what that is. Be unique, be creative. You need to get in the mind of the agent. They probably see inspectors come through there all the time. How are you going to be different? How are you going to be set apart? And yeah, make it about them. Make their lives easier. Don't be unprepared. Don't use too many words. Nobody likes reading that novel of an email. Usually those just get closed out and nobody ever comes back to them. And don't wait for them. Make sure that you're being proactive and getting yourself out there. All right, so that was how to drive traffic to your website. We know we threw a lot of topics at you. Again, you can always come back, rewatch this video, and gradually add pieces little by little. Now we're going to get into the other big topic of our talk here, and that's conversion. Conversion is just that fancy word for when somebody visits your site, are they then becoming a customer? Now what? They're on your site.
And for you new inspectors too, this matters right away, because the first agent you talk to or the first client that you're referred to goes to your website. It's now about conversion at that point. And so don't think this is just when you rank first and you got to convert. This matters right away.
Yeah. And you're spending all this money on driving traffic to your site, whether it's through ads or SEO. You want to now, you don't want them to just leave and that money go to waste. You want to convert more and more of them. So a few ways that we're going to go about approaching this. The first thing is user interface and design. And so this is just how your website looks. It's a little bit subjective, but let's take some case studies. So the website on the left, We have both the desktop version up top and then a mobile version down below. What do you think? What do you feel when you see this? You know, the one on the left maybe looks like they haven't, maybe they did their own website. They seem to be having a lot of different colors in there. That's a little bit off-putting. The black background, you know, maybe connotes a certain thing. And it looks like they haven't really probably updated the site structure in a number of years, maybe even a decade or more. On mobile, you have the scroll bars that show up. You can't necessarily read the content without pinching and zooming. Whereas the site that we built for Stride Home Inspections on the right, it's open, it's clean, it has a modern feel, and it's just gonna draw a user in. We have orange buttons that kind of are subconscious cues to the website visitor of what to click. And so a lot of these are schedule inspection, book an inspection, get a quote. These are things that we build into every single website just to make sure that the client can be kind of guided along towards doing what you want them to do, which is schedule an inspection.
And notice the strong language. There's value props on there. I mean, you're going to see a lot of these elements on all these sites.
Yeah, so like Kevin's talking about, quality home inspections beyond the standard. This is something that really connects with a visitor. Especially this one on the right here. I love that it's very open. It's very obvious what you should do. You should put in your name and your email and your phone number and click go. Yep. Or they also have the phone number. I think we want to address multiple demographics. I think there's maybe, to generalize, the older demographic would prefer to just give you a call, talk to you on the phone, and that's where they're going to build trust. And so you got to account for that. Younger demographics, it's becoming increasingly an online world. There's things where I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be able to do this at 2 a.m. when I think of, oh, I need to schedule my home inspection. Let me just hop online. I'm going to read some reviews and I'm going to go to their website. I need it to be easy. I need to have a form where I can just take care of everything right then and there. The website on the left is an example of a very busy website. This actually looks, you know, relatively more modern. You can see a more modern home in the background, but they, you know, maybe they didn't work with a good website designer. Maybe they tried to design it themselves and they just threw all of their certifications and images onto a page. And that confusion is very overwhelming to a visitor. They're probably going to click back and that site is just not going to convert very well. Here's yet another example. You have a lot of different colors. It's a kind of an older school design. That's not going to convert quite as well as the one on the right. You know, it does, you know, the color scheme is a huge thing. Good designers will pick a color scheme that is going to be pleasing to a user and that the action buttons are set apart. This one is in red, get support. They use those phrases to build trust. Your home's foundation begins with trust. That's, you know, it might seem like kind of a lofty phrase for your marketing, but that's what connects with users. That's what, you know, study after study is showing. These are things that help convert people to users.
And studies show people don't read. People land on your site for a couple seconds and make a decision like that. And so remember, you want text on your homepage for somewhat SEO purposes, but make it further down. When you land on each of these, do you know what to do? You know, do you know where to go and click?
Yet another site where it's very busy. The layout isn't conducive to mobile. On the right, it's clear, it's obvious what to do. The same sites on mobile, obviously, the one on the left does not look great, whereas the one on the right has a different layout for mobile design, that responsiveness that we talked about earlier. So not only is that important for SEO and rankings, that's important on that human element of, does the visitor to your website have a clear and obvious way to do what they're there to do, which is find out about you and book an inspection. Again, clear calls to action. There's 2 orange buttons up here. If you can't make it out, one of them is phone number. If they're on a mobile app, they can tap that, it starts ringing. The other one is schedule inspection. If they tap that, it goes straight to the online scheduler. They can choose what services they're after, pick a date, book it.
All right, so to wrap up here, guys, have a modern design. If you have an existing site, it might be time to modernize it if you feel it's worth that. Have a few clear calls to action. You only want a few. You don't want a ton of buttons to confuse your users. Make it easy for them to do what you want them to do. Take a look at your site on your phone and tablet. Make sure it's user-friendly, make sure it's mobile-friendly, and then give them multiple ways to connect. Think about all your different users and demographics, whether it's millennials, all the way up to boomers that want to just call. Don't overcrowd your site. Some of those examples we saw, it's overwhelming. It makes people hit the back button. You don't want to overwhelm your visitors. So more options is not always good. Make it a separate page if you need to. Set it and forget it. Your website is often something you need to keep updated very often. So don't think that you did it a few years ago. It may not have been done right or done well. And don't try to be a designer if you've taken a shot at it and you're just spinning your wheels. As an inspector, it's probably not the best use of your time. We want you to be meeting with agents and doing inspections, continuing education. So find a professional designer. It's something that's worked out very well for our website customers.
You know, it's kind of, I think about like your wardrobe, you know, whatever was cool, like when we were in college, we just can't still be wearing right now. It's design shifts and changes every few years. And it's something that you have to just constantly improve. Otherwise, the perception is that you're not somebody that's maybe staying up to date with modern tools and modern knowledge, or that you don't have attention to detail. And as a home inspector, the last thing you want to be perceived as is somebody that doesn't have attention to detail. These are the details that might be the first foot in the door for you is your website. So we cannot stress the importance enough. All right, so next big topic when it comes to converting visitors on your website into paying customers, user experience. This might be a little bit of like industry jargon. It's how your website visitors feel when they're there. And I think the big theme here is establishing trust. The potential customer needs to trust that you're a qualified home inspector that's going to help them with a very big purchasing decision. And so some ways that we see people go about establishing trust. If you have a video on your site of you talking, they're going to feel like they know you. Maybe you film it once and it takes you 10 minutes. Maybe you need a few takes. It takes you an hour. You film a video once and you put it on your site. Anytime someone visits your site, they feel like they're hearing directly from you. They're hearing your voice. They're hearing how you are. That's a great place to convey your knowledge, those soft people skills. Because like it or not, this is an industry that's shifting away from just where the technical knowledge is enough to where your personality matters and you're selling an experience. And so a video is a huge part of it. I know a lot of the inspectors we work with are very hesitant, and we might have to do a little bit of arm twisting to convince them that this is a good idea. But I think the proof is in the conversion rates that go up once you have a solid video on your website.
Definitely. And get ahead of this, guys. Video is being used in so many other industries and areas primarily. And so you got to get over that hump and create that connection because it just works. And you want to make even one for agents and one for clients.
Yeah. So practice, practice, practice. We've been filming a ton of videos in the past year and a half since we started Spectora. And hopefully you agree that they're getting better with time. Another way to establish trust, simple pricing. As a consumer, I get overwhelmed if I have to do a bunch of complex math to figure out what the pricing is. So the more simple you can make your pricing, the better. And you know, what's your take on the debate of I don't want to give away my pricing on my website?
I think you got to look at where your business is at. For you new inspectors, look at your competition, see what your competition's doing, and it's going to be a different answer for every market, which is the hard answer. You just have to evaluate if you can sell, if you get someone on the phone and you're better selling your unique value propositions, or if you're not a great salesperson, then maybe you do want to give that pricing up front. So I go either way on this, but I think it really depends on what your competition's doing and your ability to sell once you get someone on the phone.
And it's tough. I think there's definitely some of you that will compete on price and you just want to do more inspections for a smaller amount of money. And that's definitely a valid business strategy. I think though, we find the trend is more often people don't want to compete on price and they want to compete on the value they offer. They want to compete on providing a better experience. And so a lot of it is, yeah, you might be having, your prices might be higher on your website, but it's all these other things we're talking about of the value that you're going to provide, the knowledge, the expertise that you bring, and the personality that you're going to be, and showing them that before they hire you. That's the part that gets you more money per inspection and leads to very successful home inspection businesses.
And that's what speaks to the videos and the engagement, because if you make that emotional connection first, it may not matter what's on your pricing. And remember with the reviews that we looked at, people are willing to pay more if they know they'll have a good experience. That's what all of that content tells a customer, is that they're going to have a great experience. By the time they get to pricing, they may not care. And the last point on that, I see a lot of posts in the forums and trainings that say, don't be the low priced inspector, don't compete on price. There's no coincidence that it's experienced inspectors usually telling you this because they don't want to be undercut in their market. I do know it's a reality that new inspectors have to start somewhere and build up their value over time. So just don't feel bad if you find yourself coming in low. Just know that you don't want to be there forever, and you want to eventually provide so much value that you can justify raising prices.
Another way to establish trust. If you have great reviews, post that on your website. Let them know, hey, I'm a great inspector.
This speaks volumes. I mean, it's amazing that what you can potentially, where you can get your business by having that social proof.
Yeah. Relevant content, like we said earlier, if you have a knowledge domain, some expertise in a certain area, and you put that on your website, when somebody comes to your website, they're going to maybe click around on the links, they're going to read your blog. And if they say to themselves, this inspector really knows their stuff. They have an in-depth article here on gutters and downspouts. I have another in-depth article here on water heaters and how to maintain them. They're going to just feel a lot more comfortable hiring you, because this is your selling now. This is you saying, I am knowledgeable and experienced. Here's a bunch of stuff that I wrote. All right, so outside of trust, ease of use is a big thing. We talked earlier about making sure you're giving them multiple ways to connect with you. This particular inspector has a phone number listed on the top of every page. It's a clickable link where if they're on a mobile app, they can just click it and it starts ringing right away. That phone availability, it's going to be up to you and kind of your home and family situation in terms of how much you want to be available. You might want to consider calling services and call centers if you're getting busier, or if you don't want to be bothered at all hours of the day and night. But just having that availability to be reached by phone can be a huge way for you to convert people that come to your website and convert them into customers. Another ease of use, the online scheduler. Here's an example of Spectora's embedded online scheduler. It can go directly into a website, and within a couple minutes, people can input their address, input their customer or their contact details, pick a date, choose a time, choose their inspector if you're a multi-inspector company, click submit, and boom, they have their inspection scheduled. It could be the middle of the night, you could be on vacation, it doesn't matter. This has gone into your calendar and you have money already coming in the bank via maybe the integrated payments. And so just given that ease of use, a lot of the modern audience, a lot of the younger audience, it's not only desired, it's expected. And if you're not doing this, it's another spot you might be leaving money on the table.
So the big takeaways here, guys: establish trust with your website. It shows that you're modern, you're clean, you're detail oriented, and then make it easy. You just saw the online scheduler there. If you're new and haven't customized this yet, go into your settings and take a look at it and get it customized, because you have to make it easy so you're not missing any business. What we don't want to do, guys, is being impersonal. Your site sometimes can say I'm impersonal, even though you may not be. So don't be another faceless company. Put your face out there and just know and trust in the process that it does help. We have to get over this not wanting to put our face out there, not wanting to really put ourselves out there. So you have to get over that, because it helps you be authentic and it helps you build trust in your business.
And don't be shy. This is be authentic, be you, get yourself out there. That's it's hard, right? It's a hard shift for a lot of inspectors, especially if you've never had a job where your personality is so important. But it's the shift we're seeing in the industry. It's the guys that are succeeding and having growing businesses. They're paying so much attention to the human side of the business. They're paying so much attention to providing not just a report as a product, but this service, this experience that starts long before they even book the inspection, continues long after the actual inspection.
And don't think you have to be any certain type of person. Just be yourself. If you're talking into the camera, it'll take a bunch of takes. But if you're being your authentic self and showing the customer and agent that you care and that you have pride in your work, that's going to sell more than having to be this lofty vision of what we think we need to be on video.
All right, so the last piece when we talk about converting visitors into paying customers is some of the technical aspects. These are just some boxes that you need to check so that they're not holding you back. We talked about page speed earlier when it comes to SEO, but of course it matters very much from a human perspective. 40% of people will abandon a website if they're looking at this loading spinner for more than 3 seconds. I know I do the same. Maybe my threshold's even less, like a second and a half, and I'm swiping back because it's just, I'll find another website, another piece of content, or another inspector. And so that's really huge. Mobile friendliness, we talked about in numerous ways, but just from a very human perspective, that makes it difficult if it's not mobile friendly. So we can't emphasize this enough. More and more people are using the mobile apps. We have people, you know, even grandmothers, grandfathers, the older generation are getting phones as their primary means of accessing the internet. So it's not just if you're in a millennial market. It's important everywhere. So some tools for you to help you. We mentioned GT metrics earlier. Here's a screenshot of that where it gives you grades on, you know, optimizing your images. Do you have scaled images? Some of the more technical stuff like that gets into code. A web developer can help you with pretty much everything on here. Optimizing images might be something you can do yourself if you're a little bit tech savvy. Google has a lot of free tools, PageSpeed tool and mobile friendly tests that you can use. If you use a WordPress website, like all of our websites, there's a number of plugins that you can use to make your website faster. All the websites that we build, we do this for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you're using another platform or an independent web developer for your site, this is something that you can use to kind of cross-check what they're doing, so that when you pay them some money, you want to see improvements on these metrics so that you know it's not just money fired out into the vacuum.
All right, takeaways here: compress your images on your site at a minimum. If you do nothing else, go to tiny PNG and compress your images. It'll improve your page speed right away. Use caching. That's a little bit of a higher level topic. Some of the plugins do it. You can ask your web developer about it. Use a web developer if you guys don't feel like you have the expertise in these areas. It does pay off. Page speed, mobile friendliness, all these things can impact your business in a great way. So think of it as an investment.
Yeah, and I know I've made a lot of my career out of building software. So I know that the prices they seem high. But just remember, this is probably the most important piece of marketing you have out there. And so you really want to invest in it, because people will, for better or worse, make judgments on you, your personality, your attention to detail, your skills as an inspector based on your website. And so use a quality web developer, web designer, or else you're just, you know, it's going to inhibit your business growth.
I see this all the time. I know we all have different experience levels. Some of the inspectors have a technical background. That's great. I think if it goes to the depths to be able to create something a lot like the examples we looked at. So just make sure you know these intricate details. If you're going to go at it alone, of course, I'm not going to say some of you can't, but there's a lot more to websites than just what you see on the page. So just know that there's a lot under the hood that we look at and put time into.
Yeah, when we talk about the code structure, the database setup, the hosting, you can't see those when you go to the website, but those with technical expertise will be able to tell you, hey, these are things that are good, these are things that are holding you back. So again, you know, work with professionals. All right, now we want to give you some bonus tips. We've talked about how to get more business through organic SEO, through paid, through social. We've talked about conversion, how to take that business or take the visitors to your website and turn into actual paying customers. Now we're going to give you a little bit more in terms of like, all right, you have paying customers. How do you make those customers turn into even more customers? How do you grow? How do you build upon that? Turn clients into more business. A lot of it has to do with wowing them. Wow the clients with the inspection experience. We've talked about this earlier. We're going to get into a little bit more detail. If you have online agreements and payments built into your platform, that's huge. That's huge for millennial buyers. That's huge for busy people. That's huge for increasingly more and more of us. I don't even have a checkbook anymore. If somebody asked me to write a check, I would kind of laugh, because that's just, I don't think I've had a checkbook for several years now. I need to pay it for everything online. So make sure that's part of your offerings. Agreements, you want me to sign an agreement and fax it back to you? That's just probably not going to happen. So our software, of course, there's built-in ways to do all of this. That's why we built it in there, is because we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you and for your clients to just streamline this entire process and give you less to worry about as an inspector, because you don't want to worry about showing up on site, making sure paperwork's in place, making sure they've paid. let your software handle that for you.
And we talk a lot about user experience. Our platform is an extension of your user experience. So you want to make sure they match up. Your website is one thing. The experience they get when they're booking an inspection through Spectora is another. So you want to make sure that those user experiences match up.
Reminders are huge. Like we said, the experience of the inspection begins, maybe when they search for you, but once they book the inspection, especially, they want to feel taken care of. They want to feel like they're already interacting with you before you even meet them. And with platforms like Spectora, you can do that where maybe you've never even talked to them because they've booked online, but you can schedule reminders to go out a few days before the inspection, the night before, the morning of, both on email and text, so that they feel like you're interactive, you're preparing them, maybe you're sending them education on how to ensure you have a successful home inspection or what to expect from your home inspection. And so you're educating them, you're maybe making your job easier because you're telling them what's included and what's not included. You're maybe telling them, hey, bring a pen and paper in the last half hours for questions. Or maybe you're the kind of inspector that says, you're gonna join me as we walk around, I'm gonna educate you on different aspects of the home. Some of this stuff is huge. And like we said, you can automate all of this so where it's 10 minutes of setup for you at the beginning, and that happens with each and every client that you get, and it can work wonders.
I like this tip a lot, guys, as an SEO guy, because not only are you getting extra clicks and visitors to your site, you're saving yourself headache when the client and agent show up, because your article could be on how to get the most out of your home inspection, commonly asked questions. Get out ahead of some of these things that you may have heard are stumbling blocks, or then once you experience a few, write an article about it. It's something you know very well, and you can help your SEO in the meantime.
The report itself, of course, this is your primary product, and it says a lot about you. It's gonna be something that maybe the home buyer returns to after they move in when it's time to do some annual maintenance. Are you giving them a long, dense, hard to read PDF that's just kind of ugly and that's not something that they want to utilize or ever go back to? Or are you giving them a website that's dynamic, that's user-friendly, that they can click in, that they can look at photos, they can sort it using quick features? If it's the agent, their experience matters too, right? To get referrals. You want that agent to say, man, you made it so easy. All I had to do is copy and paste the text into my repair request document. Done. And so this is, of course, our report came about from the focus groups that we did with clients, with agents, in terms of just really making sure that their needs were being addressed from the report itself. And so I know most of you, if you're watching this video, you probably already use us and we're preaching to the choir. But if you are stumbling across this video from another way, and you're not using Spectora, this is just some of the things that are built in.
And here's a bonus tip for you guys that do use us. Take a screen share, use something like Zoom or Google Hangouts, and show yourself clicking through a report. Make a video of how to read your sample report and put it on your website. You don't even have to have your face on the video. Just share your screen and click through your report. It shows your clients and your agents how good your report is. Huge for engagement.
After the inspection, automated follow-ups will, in addition to asking for reviews, which we talked about earlier and is very important, this is also a way to make sure that, say, the client feels taken care of. When you say, hey, did you have any follow-up questions? It's been a week since your inspection. Maybe a month or two later, you say, hey, did you ever end up moving into that house? If so, do you have any follow-up questions for me? Anything else on the report in terms of maintenance items that you want to? And yeah, that might make a little bit of work for you if people are calling you and asking you to dive back into something. But if nothing else, it keeps you top of mind. And when that client, maybe they have a friend that's buying a house and they say, who you should use for home inspector? That's the person they think of, is the person that's sending them those automated follow-ups. And so you can do this in Spectora, of course, with your client, with your client's agent. You can even do it with listing agents if you just want to get a little bit more brand exposure out there.
You guys are in the business of customer service. That some of the most successful inspectors we work with, the service doesn't end at the inspection. They'll answer a call at 4 in the morning. We're not saying to do that, but be available and remember that brand perception only gets better the more you engage before and after the inspection.
So wow your clients, it's an experience, and we cannot stress enough that you have to get in the heads of the client and really think about what do they need, what can make that whole process of the home inspection, from when they search for you and hit your website all the way until years after the actual inspection. How can you make that better? How do you stay top of mind throughout that entire time. So they're referring you and they're telling other people about you. All right. That was our presentation. We hope that we gave you some really useful tips on how to get more visitors to your website, how to bring in business, how to take those visitors to your website, get them to start paying you, and then how to get those people to review you, refer you. And we hope we showed you a little bit about how our software can help with that. Like we said, you know, you probably feel like that was a lot of information. And we hope it was. You don't have to absorb it all now. You don't have to go out and do it all this week, this month, even this year. We believe that each little baby step can be gradually added. Pick one thing to do each week. Make good habits. This is about a process. You know, you can't, even if you could put all the time in to do SEO this week, that's not what it's about. It's about consistent, ongoing efforts and gradually improving those.
Test, test, test. We test all of this out, guys. Good habits over time, testing, paying attention to it, and looking at your home inspection business truly as a business, because you're a business owner and you have to be aware of all of these aspects, even if you're outsourcing them. But this will give you guys plenty. Ask us, holler with any questions, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, thank you so much for your attention, and we hope to talk to you soon.
See you guys.